What's going on, Clay?
Doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. It's Saturday, a day of
Yeah, my
rest. So
favorite
I'm
second
doing well.
son. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you doing?
I love you. How you doing?
Love you too. I'm doing well. Doing well.
Wonderful. I'm so glad to hear that. I'm gonna let you and Clay get down to your business.
Thank
Yeah,
you. Good to hear from you.
I'm at boring home this weekend. Nothing at the house this weekend. Nothing too. Not in Atlanta, unfortunately, but
I know. I
I was
know.
looking forward. No, the two for ones was that the first representation was supposed to give me a media credential to cover the event. They denied. They said you can still pay. I'm like, nah, I ain't paying. No, I pay them 350. Well, I was supposed to cover it for free. Yeah, so that's what had happened there. So I was like, nah, forget it. So here I
Gotcha. Yeah. And I was looking forward to seeing you, but
yeah,
looks like
I'll
we're
be back
recording,
down
by the
there.
way. But I was looking forward to seeing you. We have our Black Law Students Association banquet tonight. So I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to our conversation and then mixing and mingling with some Black law students down here.
Okay, when's that going to be?
That's tonight at 6:30.
Oh, okay. So we'll have time there. Okay, good. All right.
Yeah, we got some time. I'm
Yeah.
excited.
Well, let's get right on to it. So,
Yes.
welcome everyone to another edition of WeekCap. These are your hosts, Clay D, the one and only, and Mr. Greer Webb, the future attorney of the year himself.
You are too kind. You are too kind, my
I
friend.
know, I know. But first of all, we're gonna get right down to it. It's tournament time, and you should see
Don't
Riley.
do it. Don't do it.
You already know I'm gonna do it. I had to. First of all, I'm gonna be nice. I'm gonna be kind. I
Okay.
extend my condolences, and I granted you enough privacy during this time. I gave you a whole day that we go off.
You did. You
I
did.
requested I granted your request for privacy that you probably wondered. So now it's over. Now we're gonna go talk. So Greer, what happened to your Tar Heels? What happened? What happened? You gotta tell me. What's the autopsy report?
Man, it comes down to the basics. We couldn't execute the fundamentals this year, and that really showed in our game against Ole Miss. We only ended up losing by 7, but as you probably saw, we were down big in the first half. We came back, we made it really close, but we just couldn't make our shots. We don't have a really strong big man this year, and so unfortunately, UNC is out. I think that only leaves Duke as the ACC, the sole remaining ACC team in the tournament because Clemson got knocked out by McNeese State, who
Hmm.
then lost today. It always bothers me, Clay, when people get knocked out by, a higher seed or a lower seed, and then that seed loses. I'm like, at least be a real Cinderella team. But anyway, I'm looking forward to the games today. I know there are a few. Auburn playing tonight. You got Michigan playing here in a few minutes. And so I love tournament time. I love March Madness, but I guess I could call it March Sadness now because UNC is
Yeah.
out.
Hey, listen. Guess what now? Now we can officially turn the page to Chapel Bill.
That's right. That's right. Look, they're already doing big things over there at UNC Chapel Hill. Bill Belichick, he's getting rid of the artificial turf on the football field. This week, they've put in some real grass, and he's taken, I believe, numbers and names off of the practice jerseys so that they operate as a team. I'm putting all my faith and trust in UNC football because UNC basketball was not it this year.
Hey, let's not count out we're an inclusive bunch here. Let's not count out the Lady Tar Heels.
Absolutely not. I love the Lady Tar Heels.
Yeah, let's just
And
say
I think, look, the women's tournament is oh my gosh, I was watching South Carolina yesterday. They're so dominant. UConn, I think, played today and dominated. And so we don't definitely not on this show do we discount the power and prestige of women. So I love that the women's March Madness is in full force, and you've got some of the same teams in there. UConn, South Carolina. I think Louisville women are still in there. I'll have to check. But I just love to see this competition at this time of year. So it gives me something to distract me from the pollen that's coming and congesting me.
Yeah, for sure. Right. It's always happened during tournament time. Whenever both the men's and women's teams have been in, people on campus debate, man, this stinks. Our season's over. I'm like, y'all know the women are still playing, right? To give you a side story, when I was going to Rutgers University years and years ago, I don't know if you know the name C. Vivian Stringer. She's a legendary coach. Okay, you do.
Yep.
So the women's team was bigger than our men's team. Like So we played in the national championship. This was 2007. That was my freshman year. Should we stop aging myself? My true freshman year of college. We played Candace Parker and Pat Summitt uh,
Yep.
in the national title game.
Wow.
Yes, that was pretty. That was pretty epic. That Candace just she tore us up.
She's
She tore
awesome.
us up.
She played for Tennessee, right, in Pat Summitt, and now
Yeah.
she's
hmm
actually one of the anchors or commentators for the men's March Madness. I don't know if you've seen that through
Oh,
Turner
yeah,
Broadcasting. So they
I
have her
did.
on there to give her perspective. She's awesome.
Candace Parker was something else. That was once in generation talent. I mean, she rebounded like you could not believe it was.
Wow.
And there's kind of there's a little controversy that came out of it. I don't know if you're old enough to remember this, but do you remember or do you know about the Don Imus controversy by any chance?
No, not really. I mean, it sounds familiar, but go ahead and educate.
Yeah. So you can probably just Google it, or even just ask anybody who knows, but who's old enough. But after that game, Don Imus. So this is actually kind of leads to the politics in its own little queer way too. So the reason why we have a Morning Joe show to begin with on MSNBC because Morning Joe took over the former time slot of Don Imus. So there used to be a nationally syndicated radio show called Imus in the Morning. It was it was held by this conservative, which MSNBC has always had this weird fetish with having one conservative on their whole network. I've never got that to this day, but he was Don Imus. He was just this country guy. He had his own unique conservative talk radio following, but MSNBC simulcasted it. So the day after this national championship game, he goes on. He says, "Did you see? Yeah, this was probably the last time until recently that the women's tournament kind of." Outpaced the men's in '07 because in '07, Florida, I believe, had one. That's when Florida had Joakim Noah and all of that who eventually played for
Yes,
Florida.
yes.
That was a couple years after UNC had won the men's. But Don Imus goes on and said, "Yeah, I saw some of I watched a lot of it." He goes, "Women's players aren't really pretty. You should have seen the Rutgers ladies. I'm kind of glad Tennessee won because the Rutgers team, they just look like a bunch of nappy-headed hoes. True story. There you go. Man, that whole controversy, it was so big. And this was pre
Wow.
kind of social media, kind of. So it was
Mm.
on the cable news and everything. Everything like that. It was big on campus. We felt that that was a direct hit towards us. It was so big that he never really apologized for anything. He was a shock jock. He got MSNBC had fired him only because like Al Sharpton and everybody like had these big old boycotts and protests, and we had this big old town hall literally on campus saying we demand that Don Imus get fired. We had pastors, preachers come up. Like this was community organizing
Wow.
at its finest. And we all prayed to hell heads. And it worked because he got ousted. So when Imus in the morning show got ousted, all of a sudden who gets replaced? This show called Morning Joe, Joe Scarborough. That's the
Mm.
reason why we have Morning Joe today. So
Wow. How about that? How about that?
yeah.
There's
So
look, all of these topics have some type of interconnection.
degrees of separation. Yep.
Wow, wow.
Yeah.
Well,
So if you ever went, yeah.
thank you for educating me and educating us. I didn't remember the details of that. I think I was a young lad at that time.
Yeah.
But should we get to the topics of today?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So, Trump dismantling the Department of Education. I'm not
Whew.
even going to ask you for your thoughts. I'm just going to say, just go off.
I really don't know what to say that hasn't been said already. He's doing all of these massive sweeping changes. He wants attention and he wants to have a showdown in court, right? Because all of this is illegal. It's just too much of an expansion of executive power. I do want the people to realize just how significant this is. He's trying to defunctionalize the federal or the National Department of Education, which helps the states with education, which helps with student loans. Most people have loans when they go up to higher ed, which helps make sure that people in this country are given the right to learn about their history and about topics like math and science and English and social studies. right? It's very important that we have a Department of Education, something in place at the national level that makes sure that all of these states are complying, right, and are doing the right thing. Because we know that if we leave everything up to the states, there are going to be massive disparities. And so that's really all I have to say about it. I think it's very unfortunate. It's very clear that Trump wants attention with this move. He wants a showdown in court. And the Department of Education, I mean, I know so many people who are just so um, confused and anxious about what's going to happen. I've seen people joking like, well, if we're going to dismantle the Department of Education, I hope all of the tech people get rid and forgive all the loans on their way out. I mean, do something to push back. It's absolutely crazy. What are your thoughts?
I agree wholeheartedly, 100%. We knew this was going to come. He said on the campaign trail, so he's staying true to his word. On the student loan side, look, I mean, this has been a settled argument, in my opinion, long overdue. We know student loans are, I don't want to use the word scam. I'll be careful with my words, but we know the deal with that. And people want to, I think people are kind of losing the argument now. Well, I didn't have to take out loans. Why do I have to pay your loans back? I mean, no one ever says that when they're, it's kind of the same argument conservatives make where I shouldn't have to pay taxes for schools, so I don't have kids who don't attend them. We pay taxes for things we don't engage in all the time.
Right.
So let's just be real. That's the
Preach.
point of taxes, to be a steward to your community. That it's just as simple as that. So, but I would say that you just have to keep up, you meaning us collectively, continue to fight for student loan reform and even individually do what works best for you. I mean, I'm gonna do works best for me. I decided a long time ago I wasn't gonna worry about student loans, and it hasn't really impacted me that much. Just gonna say that, and I'm just gonna pray and manifest it still stays that way. So I
Right.
have to keep doom scrolling about what student loans are going to look like today. Even even when before Biden was elected, that was my thought then. Look, anything extra is a bonus. But
Right.
I already have a plan with my student loans. That's that. I've never allowed them to be a hindrance to me. Never have, and they never will be. So folks want to overreact, that's on them. Or I mean, I'm not saying overreact, but I'm not gonna let it bother me. That's just all I'm gonna really say on that front. Now, Trump did say he was gonna outsource it to the SBA. I don't know how you gonna outsource student loans to a small business when student loans are big business. But again, nothing makes sense that.
You're preaching. I mean, this just goes back to our point. This goes back to our point that we really need to be building and strategizing at the local level, right? Like, let's get back to faith centers being a hub for education and financial planning, right? We've got to start saving and making sure that we're spending our money wisely, especially in marginalized communities, because we know that the generational wealth gap affects us disproportionately.
And speaking of which, this is a topic that I was looking forward to bringing up, but I'm sure you heard about the paying for app Klarna in partnership with DoorDash to where they struck a deal to where consumers or customers could pay off their DoorDash bills in four. And again, that kind of brought up the subject of, personal finances, debts in the middle class or lower class, working class. Just what's your reaction to that, Greer, if you have any?
I mean, I do have a reaction. And I know I saw on social media people responding to that with the Dave Ramsey gifs and videos and just saying, hey, this is why it's so important to be responsible with your money. And so DoorDash and Klarna doing this pay what you can type or pay in part type partnership. I, I'm not necessarily sure why they're doing it, but again, I go back to something that Dr. King said. He said the best way for true to achieve true change is through personal responsibility and public policy. So people have to be responsible. I mean, I know a lot of people who love DoorDash. I love DoorDash, but you can't use it every day. You can't put all your money toward it. You can, but you're just going to be broke. And so you've got to make sure. And I know that not everyone has the same tools and resources, but ask for help, right? it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to save. It's okay to sacrifice. We're in this Lenten season, so if you're a believer, there's already an element of sacrifice that's taking place from now until Easter. And so I think it's very important that we do push for our government to be better, but we also have to be better stewards of money on the personal level. So that's my reaction there. I know people were kind of laughing about it, but I do think that, or some people said this is pointing to a sign that a recession is coming. I don't know if that's true or not, but I do think that people need to manage their money a little better. We know things are expensive these days. So let's make sure that we're not just extravagantly spending money out here and that we're actually saving for the future.
Exactly. I mean, look, there's a blame pie. One part of the pie is personal responsibility. Other part of that pie is the companies that are involved, and the other part is the government. Other part is economic conditions. I think they all play a part. Of course, first order of business, regardless of, like I said the other week or other show or two, regardless of who's in office, you still got to practice personal responsibility. You still got to take care of your family. Still got to feed yourself, clothe yourself, put a roof over your head, pay for your transportation, etc., etc. Don't matter if it's a person in office has a D in the internet on next to their name on R or I or G for Green Party. That's just that. I will say at the same time, um, if you're not, for those who are talking about it, here, listen, just don't use it. Simple as that. I mean, if I'm gonna use a paying for, it's gonna be something big. Ain't gonna be for DoorDash. And transparency, I've never ordered a DoorDash meal in my life. That them delivery fees too high for me. I mean, I'm just gonna go pick it up. I'm
Right,
just
right. Those
I pick
delivery
up my
fees are
own.
what, yeah, go ahead.
And I know in Atlanta, a lot of people I know out there, they use in major cities, they use DoorDash a lot. That's why I'm not gonna get on anybody if they want to do it. Look, if you do it, just pay it. Make sure let's make sure it does not create a situation that you can't get out of. I'm not
Exactly.
gonna try to micromanage people's lifestyle. I'm not about to do that because you just don't know what's going on. They might be in a position where they don't have a choice for
Right.
through their own fault or through something else's fault or no fault of their own. They might have a choice what to do with pay it for because they might be in the food desert. They might have they might not have easy access to a car or bus. So DoorDash might be the only way they could eat. So that's why I'm not going to stand on the ivory tower and speak from an elitist tone either. We just don't know people's circumstances. So if that helps them feed themselves and their respective others in their household for a day or two, or however that works, as long as they're able to make sure their credit's good, they're able to do for themselves properly, hey, all more power to them. But yeah, I'm not gonna get on the soapbox saying people shouldn't be doing that.
No, no, not
I'm
at
just
all.
not going to do that. So
Right.
if you
Right.
are going to do it, just be wary of what comes and just make sure you don't let snowball or avalanche.
I couldn't say it better myself. I couldn't say it better myself. Look, let's I want to talk about this quickly before we dive back to politics. A little bit of good news. I see here that Pope Francis is leaving the hospital tomorrow, and he's going to return to the Vatican after his bout with pneumonia and some really serious health concerns. So I'm glad to see that. I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you, it's kind of out in left field, but just to give us a bit of a break from all this negative political news. What do you think about that? All of this power and prestige that we give to the Pope. He's been in and out of the hospital. People have been wondering, is he on his last leg? And now he's going to go back to the Vatican to continue leading and working, this article says from CBS News. So, what do you think about that? Do you think, yeah, let me just leave the question open like
Yeah,
that. I
yeah.
mean,
So look, I think we're in a world now where we're able to see people of certain prestige, like a pope or a bishop or a monarch, king and queen. We don't view them the same as we once did. I think a lot of that happened to was is a result of, dare I, social media, or just we just know more about people's lives, so we don't see them as these untouchable figures as we once did. Of course, I'm happy for improved health and such, and then the Pope has been a great source of moral faith and direction for a lot of world leaders and a lot of individuals, especially those with the Catholic faith. So that's always a good thing. But as far as just how we view our leaders and such, yeah, I don't view necessarily the title of a pope the same way as I once did because I mean we've had popes recently take the bus or be just more open and out there in recent times, in recent years. And the same goes with the royal family over in England. Don't view them the same way as I once did because they're men and women just like you and I, and we've kind of known for better for worse what the monarch is or isn't, or what it represents, or what it doesn't represent, especially in their roles and colonialism or other things. So we don't necessarily view them with the same prestige as we once did. And look, we have a president now who wants to be these type of mythical leaders, but reality is we can see through you. You just human, just like you and I, and that goes
Right.
really with. And that's why I've said in previous shows that I don't necessarily like to use the word fan. I like to use the word supporter. I don't like to use the word celebrities. I like to use the words public figure now because I think celebrity culture is responsible for social media and all of our ills of society because of social media, for better or for worse. The celebrity culture wanting to be seen, and yes, has it done plenty of good? Absolutely. Has it given voices to previous voices? Yes, but there are folks who have benefited from it in a negative way where it created a culture to where we feel as though, especially in Western culture, to where we try to be celebrities and we end up doing things we shouldn't do. We just talked about spending more than what you need to impress people who you don't may not even like and put yourselves in debt to wear the latest fashion or to fit a certain image or fit with a certain keep up with the Joneses. That those are all elements of celebrity culture in
Right.
society. And so and that's all derived from having a de facto caste system where you have a king or pope and subsequently. And yeah, so that's just how I feel about all that. Obviously, I respect all offices and such, but look, I don't view these these titles like I once did.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And I think even this recent health scare with the Pope shows you that he's human, right? And I think you're right. He has been a great voice for moral, like a moral compass, and he's given the world some moral clarity these past few years. Let's go to somebody that you invoked who's almost the opposite of what we just said, and that is Donald Trump. Um, Let's go to this story first. I think it may be on your list too, but I saw that today Trump is revoking security clearance for Kamala Harris and Hillary Clinton and others. It seems like he's, I guess, targeting women today and repealing their access to national security documents and briefings. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I don't like it. Obviously, it's a petty revenge act. I think I even saw Bill Clinton's name listed there too. I think maybe
Okay.
he did to Joe Biden. You could definitely fact check me on that in real time and such because I don't want to lead with misinformation at all ever. But yeah, it's ass tacking. It's quite frankly dangerous. These are folks who could benefit from having national security access because they can help those who are currently in office if he was mature enough if he ever needed to seek counsel or advice from. That's very dangerous. And he even recently revoked the Secret Service, or at least attempted to revoke the Secret Service protections for former President Biden's adult children, even though that was set to expire in 6 months anyway. That's still just dangerous unless they hire their own private security and whatnot. Because who's to say that, oh, people go, oh, what does it matter? Who's to say he's going to say, you know what? He's going to wake up on the wrong side of the bed. And I don't know if he has these powers or not. Hopefully he doesn't. You know what? Revoke Joe Biden, Dr. Joe Biden's Secret Service protections. Revoke Kamala Harris's. Revoke Bill and Hillary Clinton's. Revoke Barack and Michelle Obama's. So and then or George and Laura, George W. Bush and Laura's. What if he's able to do that? And a
Right.
lot of these people, a lot of these individuals, a lot of these former presidents and first, they're still targets or still could be targets, especially the Clintons. Whew, especially them. Especially,
Right. Yeah. So just a quick fact check. I'm not seeing quite yet that he has revoked Jill and Joe or Bill and Hillary. Well, he's revoked Hillary, but not Bill. So it seems like you're right. He's maybe staying away from former presidents for now. But here's a bit of a list. He has revoked security clearance for Letitia James, Attorney General of New York, for Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, who brought a case against him. Also for Norm Eisen, who went against him with some of the, he's a lawyer on some of the impeachments. Secretary of State, former Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, and National Security Advisor, former National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, they all lost their clearances recently as well. So we've got some really high level officials. It doesn't look like former presidents, though.
Yeah, it's still dangerous.
Very dangerous.
Because it's a snowball that could lead to something else. Because who's to say he hasn't already thought about what I just announced?
Sure.
It probably has already surfaced his mind. It wouldn't surprise me. And so it's a dangerous precedent and slippery slope because it can lead to then it might be when world leaders visit us, they don't get Secret Service protection. Let's just say Zelensky doesn't get protection if he comes here again. And he's got these crazy wingbacks out here who are willing to do anything. That's why it's dangerous.
Wow. Wow. Well, let's go to another topic that I'm sure is probably on your list as well. I want to hear from you first on this because I have a lot to say, and that is this recent move. This recent move to really revoke legal protection for over 500,000 Cubans and Haitians and other folks from South America who were here on a legal program. And so he, through DHS, which is currently being led by Kristi Noem, y'all know Kristi Noem, the former governor of South Dakota who took her dog out back and shot it because it wasn't following directions. That one. She and Trump together have revoked legal protections for 500,000 South Americans and some other folks who were here again through a legal program. What are your thoughts on that? What type of precedent does that set?
Yeah. So, this all goes back to you have to be careful that we don't have slippery slopes that come from these things. Look, we all know immigration ain't perfect. We can all uniformly agree to that. But it seems like everybody who's getting deported looks like you or I.
Mm,
I don't see I don't see it being anybody else. I'm just saying. We never hear about illegal immigrants from Canada or from Russia or from Poland. Just saying. Just saying on that. But look, immigration, it's a very complex topic. It's not as black and white as it used to be because there's things that the Obama administration, even the Biden administration did that was quite questionable. I mean, so even the cage program, we like to pin that on Trump, but that was kind of started on the Obama administration for better or for worse. So that's my thought on that. The reality is, not to sound symbolic, at the end of the day, we need to have a robust immigration plan that benefits all because immigrants have built this country. And not to sound like I don't want to give a political speech, but that's just a fact. I'm a product of immigrants myself, immigrant myself. So I'm certainly not here without that. So that speaks very near and dear to my heart in that regard. And it was legal. And even if it wasn't, I'm a lot of great people, a lot of great contributors to society have come here, documented illegal, or whatever terminology you want to use. We need to have it also simplified to where it doesn't take a whole lot of money, which never gets talked about enough, to become a citizen, as well, and make the pathways a lot easier. So
hmm
don't feel as though they have to hop a fence or come in through other unusual means or ways. So that's a thing that's never get really talked about. So like make the test, make the whole procedure simpler and less expensive. Then you won't have people overstaying visas, green card, people overstaying their green cards. We don't ever talk about that part. We just want to talk about people hopping fences and talking about building walls, but we don't talk how come people just don't come illegal. But we always want to leave out that one particular part. If you make the process at the very least affordable, then I think that would, and of course, you're going to always have refugees. You're going to have that in any first world country. But
Right.
I think for those who mean well, you won't have people overstaying visas. It won't lead to where we are today. But we're also here today because when we had a good chance to take care of immigration fairly and equitably, we didn't. We kept on passing the buck to each new administration. And what happened is politics got in the way, and we kept both sides, Democrats and Republicans, could never agree on one, and people just wanted to be opposition. We never got it really to where it was comprehensive enough that it makes practical common sense to where we can have something that makes sense for everybody, and we can even cut down on crime eventually. So
Right.
I could go on and on about that, but that's just how I feel about that. We let it go too far without really addressing it, and people just wanted to win votes. So let's be tough on immigration. Well, let me try to out Republican the Republicans. Problem is, this is another thing with the Democrats. I've never seen a Republican ever say, and this even goes across even the immigration issue. I've never seen Republicans say too often, especially in the modern day, let me try to out-Democrat the Democrats. It's always the Democrats. We always had to bend to their will. Well, let's try to be more conservative to win votes. I've never seen the Republicans say, let's try to be more progressive to win votes.
Right. Right. I mean, you're hitting the nails on the head there. And I think also a few points there. First, we are a nation of immigrants, and they do overwhelmingly contribute so much to this country. And particularly with undocumented immigrants, they do a lot of jobs that most Americans would not want to do. And so, to your first point, this is going to have a snowball effect, where we're going to have, fruit that gets picked by undocumented immigrants is not going to be picked. Some of these cleaning jobs and cleaning toilets and buildings that are often done by immigrants. Documented and undocumented, or even refugees who need a job. These are those dirty jobs, quote unquote, for those listening, that Americans don't want to do, and that we've just sort of outsourced to immigrants or to even undocumented people and not really batted an eye. Now we're saying we want to crack down on that. So it's going to come with consequences. To your second point about what it has been like in Congress on this issue. Think of the most recent issue where James Lankford, a pretty conservative Republican from Oklahoma, proposed a bipartisan immigration plan, and Trump, in particular, tanked it and said, no, don't vote for this. And this is not going to pass Congress, even though that would have helped. That would have made immigration, it would have streamlined it a little bit. It would have supported the Border Patrol agents down there and protected them, which most people in this country are on board with. And so we see how politics gets in the way of good politics, right? We see the way that this system almost eats itself. And to your point, last point about Democrats, trying to bend to Republicans' will, whereas Republicans never bend to Democrats' will. That's why the Democrats have had a messaging problem for so long and why they keep losing around the country, but particularly nationally, federally. So I wanted to talk about this, and then I'll throw it back to you to wrap us up. I don't know if you've seen on social media, but Bernie Sanders and AOC are going around the country and they're having these massive rallies. I mean, political rallies in towns that have never seen crowds this size. What do you think that means when it comes to messaging, right? Even if those two candidates, maybe they're not the best presidential candidates, but they're Democrats or they act like Democrats, and they say that this is what it's going to take: bold, strong, radical messaging and going out and connecting with people who might soon totally check out. What do you think about this?
So it's good to see large political crowds again. That's a good sign. But this is where the cynical part of me will come in. I would see, this is why y'all don't want me to hold an event because I would make it so organized. I would ask them, did y'all vote? I will get van, I'll get NTP van, and I'll get every action. Oh, I need y'all to work with me on this project. In order for them to attend, get access, and we verify for their voting records, which every action, I might even try to promote them, can do. Did y'all vote? Why am I gonna ask that? Because if y'all did not vote, y'all just attended a de facto concert, a free concert.
Mm.
I will bet you Greer half them people didn't even vote. I might be too exaggerating too much, but I'm going to say a good fraction probably did not vote.
Yeah, let's
Or
say
they,
30%. What about that?
yeah, I'll go with that. I'm willing to bet you some of them voted the wrong way.
Mm. Mm.
hmm Yeah.
Let's hear this.
Oh, yeah. I will bet you maybe Colorado, Bernie voters always been Trump voters. And you got a lot of people vote for AOC and Trump. I'm willing to bet you a good 20% voted for Trump. I
Mm.
bet you a good 30% didn't vote and a good 20% voted for Trump. And they're having voters remorse.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah.
Say it. Say it.
Mm. See, that's why y'all don't want me organized, man, because everybody will be outed. Matter of fact, I'm surprised AOC didn't take that opportunity to out them. This is where I probably would give. This is where I would have a Jasmine Crockett come in because she probably, you know me, I ain't the biggest Jasmine Crockett supporter. I used to wear family member.
Right.
She probably would have outed them by saying something like that. I'm just saying.
Mm.
But
So
yeah,
what do you think when it comes to, this idea of voters' remorse that, oh, maybe they voted for Trump or maybe they didn't vote at all, and now they're seeing that he's doing exactly what was written and outlined in Project 2025 and they want to feel like they're doing something. I mean, shouldn't we support the fact that they're out there listening to AOC and Bernie, or
but
do we
see,
need to mandate that they do something else?
exactly. I don't want you showing up, especially if you did not vote.
Mm,
Now, if you want to right wrongs, I would find out who's running in the first. That's another organizer effort there. Do not have them in cities where they don't have contested elections. Is Denver having a? I think they're having a mayoral race. You can fact check me on that in real time. I believe they are, but if they aren't, you're wasting your time there. I will not. I will only have. They should have that in New York City, where they're having a mayoral race. They should have that in Boston, mayoral race. You should have that in Nashville, mayoral race. Atlanta, swing state, mayoral race. Plenty of places to do that in Atlanta. And do it in New Jersey, Virginia, where especially Virginia
hmm
have a gubernatorial race and a state legislator race currently. That's where you hold them rallies at. Because you can
mm,
say, y'all feel bad about voting, not voting, or how you voted, or you just don't like the way things are going. Guess what? There's a primary coming up in a couple
mm.
of weeks. Oh, shoot, go to Wisconsin. They got some good races coming up next month. That's where you got to have them rallies at. Don't have them in places that aren't even have a contested election. You got to have them in the swing state, presidential swing state, a state where they're going to have a Senate election next year, and they're just starting to form campaigns now. Do it in those places. But if
Now, I think they may have done one. I agree with you. Just to their credit, I think they may have done one of the first ones or the first one in Nevada or Arizona. That's probably maybe better than Colorado, right?
but they're not having a hotly contested election either this year, either by way of a special election, a mayoral election in a swing state, or in a city that controls the narrative like New York, then you wasting your time and your money down
Mm.
on your resources. Now,
I do wonder how these events are being funded. How do you think they're being funded?
the same people who just fundraise but don't do nothing. Now, I even saw a report that Biden is going to help out with fundraising now. He's going to be on a quasi campaign trail. Again, fact check me on that because I haven't really dug in the weeds too much, but NBC News reported that.
Hmm
That boy, we might need to recap this next week's recap because we got 2 minutes and we got hard stops. But if Biden, come on, I don't know, man. We
Yeah,
gonna
I don't know about that move because obviously he's even older than he was. He did not, win. Well, he stepped out of the race, of course, but he just has been out of the public eye for a little while now. And I think people kind of want to forget about him, right? Especially those kind of swing voters or swing states, especially the states in which Kamala didn't win, as she was ultimately the candidate. I don't think they want to hear from Joe Biden again, especially with this Israel Hamas stuff or Israel Palestine stuff. And with the economy. I mean, I hate to say it, but when you have Trump in your ear beating a dead horse and saying, I'm just doing my best because Biden jacked these prices up, and then to put Biden out there and be like, no, I didn't. I mean, is that really going to be effective? I don't think so.
That's why again, you have new leadership with Democrats and you allowing this to happen. What the heck are we doing?
Yeah, that leadership has got to change. That messaging has to change. Again, I'll say this again before we wrap. Get involved locally, stay in the fight, read the news when you can, and recharge. Don't unplug, but recharge. And start building strategies and coalitions. And look, what AOC and Bernie Sanders are doing, I think generally is good. But like we've been saying on this show, make sure that you have an action plan, right? Make sure that you vote locally. Make sure that the people around you are voting, and that they're speaking out against all of what we're seeing, this anti-DEI stuff, it's terrible. You got to speak out against it. Just war and violence doesn't help anybody. Speak against it and make sure that you're also using your vote as your voice. So those are my final thoughts. You have anything? I think we have about 20 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. Well, everything Greer said, it's time to activate now. We've done enough events, done enough speeches and talks. It's time to get activated and start marching now. Elections are coming up in the city near you. But thank you for everybody for tuning into this week's recap. This episode will be out tonight.